So, so we have picked this topic, understanding the modern JavaScript development, because of quite a few of the problems that we have been facing in the web development era since for long in the industry. So, before we get into it, let me quickly introduce myself. So, basically, I'm a mobile application developer at Impetus Technologies. Have been working with JavaScript and its technologies for over last 3+ years. I have been closely working on Java itself as well. I've been with specifically with technologies like React Native and Android, and a little bit time I spent with server technologies like Node, JS as well. I've been a Microsoft student partner. I just brag about it again and again um, so that I can shout out at people that you can also do something extra other than your academics. So I have partitioned this talk in 4 sections. Firstly, we'll be covering why we should be learning JavaScript at all in the world. Then we will be recalling how JavaScript has seen a tremendous shift. Then we'll be seeing a bit of a demo of the old JavaScript that we have already know. Quite a bit of history. I will not talk about a lot about history. I know that will be boring enough, but I will not talk about a lot about it. Then we'll see how it has got modern and how the shift is getting changed towards the technology era we are getting into, where a lot of dynamic applications have been created every now and then. Then I will be trying to demo you a little short application about how to create a server itself with Node.js, totally with the concepts of JavaScript. Then we'll be having a quite Q&A session where you guys will be able to ask me questions and I'll hopefully be able to answer them. So let's not waste any more time, and I'll just start with the session. So what motivates me to teach JavaScript, or what motivates me as a student or as a developer to learn JavaScript? So JavaScript is one of the most used languages. You can use JavaScript across all known stacks that we have currently as digital media, whether it are websites, desktops, mobiles, even mobile applications now. Even you can name a stack, and I will for sure get back to you with the kind of detail that the JavaScript can exist there. So that's the power of JavaScript in today's industry. Going with quite a few facts, then JavaScript has highest number of in development projects as of 2019 December. Highest number of open source APIs and libraries in demand and in place. If we are talking about the JavaScript popularity, let's have a quick uh, overview of the survey taken by Stack Overflow in 2017-18. So if we look at the survey of technology, that JavaScript stands one of the most loved languages and most useful languages above all languages in 2018 and 19. The survey started in 17 and has got ended at 18. So it's published in 19 only. So that's one thing that I wanted to share. Now, please let me know if my screen is not visible at any point of time. Okay, so I guess this must be enough motivation for learning JavaScript. So that those all were the reasons JavaScript has gained a very soft spot, or more, and has gained this spot in one of the most useful technologies in the industry like never before. So let's start with JavaScript that we all knew. What is it? Okay. So JavaScript is basically a lightweight single-thread interpreted programming language with first-class functions. So let's get rid of the last line, that is first-class functions. Let's think about a lightweight single-threaded interpreted programming language. So by that, what does that mean? That a language that is not compiled but is translated when it is run, and it is lightweighted. It has only a single thread to work. Not to mention, it has always been a client-side language, so can run only in browser environments. And as I said, it is interpreted. So let's look at how a typical web page would look behind the scenes. We all know a web page is made of HTML, CSS. So when I think of HTML, I think of the structure, how the web page must have been structured, or the skeleton of the web page. The CSS, the cosmetic parts of the web page, the look is given by the CSS. Talking more about them is beyond the scope of this talk. So I'll just quickly jump to the next thing that actually is needed when a web page is being used by a user. That is user interaction. So by only having HTML and CSS, you cannot have a user interactive web page. That is a dynamic behavioral web page. So that's why JavaScript exists. What JavaScript do? It basically enables web pages to be interactive. So for example, you click on a button and something happens. That's JavaScript for you. So a long definition. So JavaScript is basically a scripting language that allows you to implement complex features on web pages. For example, every time you do anything on web page that is beyond just sitting and displaying static content is something that JavaScript is doing for you. For example, you are pinching out, zoom pinch out maps. You're having videos running through your website. You're having the Zoom call. If you're having the Zoom call on Chrome, that's JavaScript for you. Even JavaScript for you. So this is basically what JavaScript has always been thought of. Now, I would like to show the same old JavaScript in action by a very small demo. So I'll just quickly open that. Just wait a minute. Okay. I guess my new screen must be visible by now. Let me just quickly check it on the other. Okay. So basically what I am showing to you is a basic HTML page which is having a header and a button to click and a paragraph element. What does that mean? So let's see the head part of this HTML. It is having a script tag with a little function and a counter variable. And the function increase counter is increasing the counter, and by using this document dot get element by id dot inner HTML equals to counter, this line is actually doing what? It is fetching the element p, which is having this id demo, and putting in this counter value in its inner HTML. So basically, this is the JavaScript. This is the old basic JavaScript that we always know, we have learned, and we have always been using. So let's see this application working, how it works actually. So basically, this is the web page that we have built using this code, just show. So on my expectations, what this button should do is on the on click of this button, this increase counter should function. So basically, this counter value is 10. So let's hit the button first. So when I am clicking this button, the counter value is getting increased and is being displayed in this paragraph tag. And I guess this is not static, right? Because this is how we have always done the dynamic parts in the web page. So this is the plain basic JavaScript that we always know. Let's move back to the slides. So enough of recalling, right? Please, please feel free to put questions in the chat so that whenever I'll take a pause, I'll see them and we'll get back to you on those. Otherwise, we'll always be having Q&A at the last of session. So let's just think about why this JavaScript ever created and how it came into existence. I will not take much time here in the history. I know it's always boring to know, but yeah, it's always important as well. So in the very beginning of 90s, we already had static pages, that is plain dumb dead web pages lying there showing information, nothing like that, just like articles which doesn't have buttons or any input elements that a user can interact with. So that's the problem that many of the people saw, and that's the need actually. It's not the problem. The problem, it became a problem next. So there's always a need first. So in 1995, there are a lot of companies who were trying to overcome this need by something called as a dynamic glue language that they would want to create for web browsers. But instead of creating a glue language, they came up with web browsers with enabled dynamicity so that they can play around with that. But that did not satisfy the need. So by that time, Java was very successful and Sun Microsystems were doing very well. They had the best developers in the world, just like Google has now. So this Netscape, the first ever company to build a very good browser, Netscape Navigator. A few guys from there contacted Sun Microsystems to get into an agreement to create such a language. And in the very next 10 days, they came up with a prototype called LiveScript. They saw a tremendous potential in the language and tried to standardize that, because without standardizing a language, the language is of no use in the world, because people would come up with their own versions of the implementations of the problem solution, and then a chaos will be made. So that's the need of the standardization of a language. So finally, after looking at the pace where a lot of companies were running behind creating such a thing, they tried to standardize it, and on seeing the popularity of Java, they named it after Java as JavaScript, just to make it popular. Now the standardization process took place, and they approached the ICMA, that is European Computer Manufacturers Association. That is one of the organizations in the world that standardizes a language syntaxes and semantics. So ICMA, just like JD, we have Java versions. ICMA is the organization that has that qualifies the standard for JavaScript versions to be in the world. So ECMAScript 1 coined in 97 and is now universally accepted JavaScript version for web browsers. So now every web browser vendor, whether it is Mozilla, whether it is Chrome or Edge or Internet Explorer, has to comply to some kind of ECMAScript standards, so that the web developers or the other developers can be stress-free to develop the JavaScript as per the standards. And now we are in this 2019 with latest ECMAScript 7 that is being released in 2018. So JavaScript has been seeing a tremendous shift. So before getting into the modernization, let's see how JavaScript actually works. JavaScript, as I told, JavaScript works on web browser environments. That is, it is not compiled. It cannot be run directly on machine, just like C++ or Java. It requires a middle level browser to get run on, because it has always been created like that, because it is a language for web browsers to make web pages interactive. So it requires a niche engine, which we call a JavaScript engine. So JavaScript engine is nothing but a program or an interpreter that executes the JavaScript code. Basically, JavaScript has always been interpreted for all the time. But recent modifications to a lot of engines, upgradations are now able to compile the JavaScript in a much better format that is easily understandable by a machine. So JavaScript is got faster in execution. So let's talk about one of the engines that we have now in the present world, that is Google V8. So everybody knows Chrome is the fastest web browser. Yes, please. Give me a second, guys. Okay. So okay. So I was talking about Chrome and V8. So JavaScript engines basically. So everybody knows Chrome is the fastest web browser, regardless of what it employs. We all know, because it loads the web pages very fast than Mozilla or than any other vendors like Opera or whatever it is. So why? It is because the engine the Chrome employs is highly optimized to run JavaScript at very high speed. And how is it got possible? Is because they are not interpreting JavaScript anymore like the world used to interpret it, or like we used to interpret it before. The reason is straightforward. They have tried to come up with something called just-in-time compiler for JavaScript. So they are now compiling JavaScript beforehand of the execution happens. The just-in-time compilation is basically nothing but bundling of JavaScript. We'll talk about it later, but for now, let's just understand. The JavaScript was behind the other languages due to quite a few things. First, it never used to be compiled, and it has no or very less number of threads. Basically, just one, where all of the code has to be executed. You cannot do multi-threading in that, right? So what happens? So due to that, the language set has a lot of setbacks in terms of performance or in terms of a lot of things. The one being the execution time and the performance. So the two things that were needed to be addressed were addressed by Google V8 engine. It is written completely in C++. That is, the compiler is written completely in C++. It compiles down the JavaScript for the machine, underlying machine, so that the machine can execute, understand JavaScript in a better shape, and can perform it in a record time. And now the V8, the C++ is all obviously having a lot of multi-threading concepts in it. So what V8 does is it took JavaScript as a language. V8, just think of V8 like a box with a lot of C++ code managing just JavaScript thread, and a lot of threads, basically 4 in the V8 box, that are helping the JavaScript to execute better. I'll not go much into the depth of how V8 actually works. That will be beyond the scope of this topic. I would encourage you guys to have a look on concepts like event loop and stuff. I will be giving the reference links at the end. So for now, let's just understand that V8 is a JavaScript rendering engine that can compile JavaScript using just-in-time compilation process. Just-in-time compilation process is, I guess, not to mention, but I'll anyhow mention that what it is it bundles a lot of JavaScript in a single concise file, and makes it more readable to the machine. That's it. So for example, when you build Java program, you have to first compile it using JavaC. That's what V8 do when we run a JavaScript. But just before running, it bundles the application. It bundles the JavaScript in a very short file, and which is more readable to machine basically. And it gave a lot of threads to JavaScript language for helping. That does not ever mean that JavaScript is now multi-threaded. JavaScript has never been multi-threaded. It can never go multi-threaded because it is built like that. So what basically we got with V8? The compilation of JavaScript, as I mentioned, and the threads to manage. So what's missing? So when we talk about something missing, we talk about some context of missing in comparison to something else, right? So what I'm talking in comparison here is a general purpose programming language. Quite nice, right? So a general purpose programming language. What does that mean? Let's take an example of Java or C# or any other language that you would use to create server programs. For example, if you want to build some chat application that allows you to chat with your friends, you would be creating a server that can essentially keep your text messages, emojis, or XYZ things in database. And whenever you request the server to pull back your data backup, you would just request it and it will do the things for you, right? But that is not something JavaScript has always been designed for. That is, I already told you, right? It is designed for making the dynamicity in the web browsers. So what is a general purpose programming language? How does it look like? Two things. First, a language that enables you to write logical operations and processes. Clear cut? Okay. Now, a language that allows you to write mathematical procedures, operations, and commands. That's also okay. A JavaScript can do that. It has logical operators. It can let you create functions, methods. It's okay. JavaScript can let you do mathematical operations. I can say it gives you that. But what is missing in JavaScript? JavaScript is not able to use file input and output operations because the API of JavaScript does not have that. Plus, file input and output operations are disk intensive operations. That is, they can go asynchronous. You cannot rely on them to be back in record time because it can take time. And JavaScript has never been designed for that. So this is the missing part JavaScript always had, which even V8 could not give it, because V8 is also not designed for JavaScript to enable JavaScript to become a server-side language. No, V8 is just making it more performant. So can I say that JavaScript can become a general purpose language if it can do file IO? Yeah, partially yes. Why I'm saying partially is because still it is missing a very core feature of a good language, that is a the multi-threading. So let's talk about something which is called Node.js now.
Suraj, sorry to interrupt you. Can we take one question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, please check your chat window.
Okay. The latest question, I guess, from Rajesh Sharma. Okay. I'll just take one question for now. Why should we choose JavaScript over Python? Python is far more easy and require less code. From Rajesh. Okay. So Rajat, I guess pretty good question from you. So what is the basic difference between Python and JavaScript? Python is what I was talking exactly. Python is a general purpose language. It has all the features that a purpose should, a language should have. And I agree, Python is far more easy to learn and has less code. But see, there is this niche difference between Python and JavaScript. You cannot employ Python at each and every stack of software. What I'm talking here is you cannot employ Python to create some applications where JavaScript really excels. For example, a file server. If you would want to create file server, JavaScript would be far more better in terms of the asynchronous behavior of it. Whereas Python being a language used for CPU intensive activities. When I say CPU intensive activities, what does that mean? CPU intensive activities are those activities or those procedures in programming which requires a lot of CPU work to be done. For example, image processing. For example, doing a lot of mathematical computations in a single code. Obviously, JavaScript is not capable of that, and hence Python can excel. But Python is not employable on each and every part where JavaScript can actually do. Plus, JavaScript has always been designed for web browsers to enable web pages to have dynamicity that Python can never do. So yes, Python is always superior, but cannot be employable to every other part where JavaScript can be. I guess that answers the question. So I'll just proceed with with something called a Node.js I was talking about. Please feel free to put your comments in chat if you have any further doubts on it.
I think we can start this one in the after reconnecting, because time
Yeah,
is running
sure.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Everyone
have
is
only 7 minutes.
requested to rejoin. We are ending this session, and within few
So
minutes it will get started. So please rejoin.
yeah. So in the later half, we'll be creating a full-fledged Node server with a little code, and we'll be getting to know how actually the modern JavaScript file structure and the code actually looks like, what we should be doing, what we should be learning, and how we can actually approach to learn the Node.js even in a better shape. That's all from my side for this half. See you in the next. We have 6 minutes remaining. If anybody has any questions, they can put it in the chat window. Let's take 1-2 more questions. I can see. So which language is better among Java, Python, or JS? I guess this has been discussed now. So every language has their own pros and cons. I'll be talking about the JavaScript cons at the very end, so that you guys decide when you are working on some kind of projects, then which language should be opted. Okay. So
Okay.
I guess no more questions for this session. So see you in the next session. Thank you very much.
One question from Mayank Kumar.
Yeah. Why should we prefer JavaScript or Ajax, Python, etc.? Okay. All right. Very good question, Matt. Thank you for coming up with the word Ajax, keyword Ajax. So basically, Matt, Ajax is one of the old parts of JavaScript. Basically, when I say JavaScript enables dynamicity in the web page, the better form of dynamicity in terms of network I/O is something called Ajax that gives us that. So when you call Ajax, it is asynchronous JavaScript. So what is asynchronous? We need to understand that first. So asynchronous is something you request some resource from a computer, and the computer is not sure whether it will be able to give that back to you or not. So you cannot halt your program there only and wait for that resource, but you want to continue with your next things. So for example, I can breathe when I'm talking. So just like that. So Ajax is something that won't reflect your web page is doing something behind the scenes, but it is actually requesting a lot of things. For example, when we are searching YouTube, the YouTube recommendation system must be updating your preferences according to your search behavior in Google database. So that's where Ajax is really useful. But we have far more advanced constructs in JavaScript than Ajax now. And I guess, Mayank, we have already talked about Python. So if that's satisfying, then it's okay. Otherwise, you can again put some question on chat.
Mayank?
From O. Difference between Java and JavaScript to use in project. So like I already told, JavaScript is something that would enable you to create dynamic web pages. When you are, for example, creating some kind of management system or something, you want to change some colors or something on a very basic level. I'm talking about with the plain old JavaScript. With the new JavaScript, if you are working on a normal project where you only want to update database or request a file or do some kind of e-commerce, JavaScript has covered it all. So we'll be talking that more about those use cases in the later half, I guess. So yeah, any more questions? Script is a language, a single-threaded interpreted language with the help of V8, that is the JavaScript engine developed by Google. It has got a compilation add-on. It has got helper threads that helps it to execute the JavaScript better. Now we are missing something called as a runtime for JavaScript. What is a runtime? I guess everybody must have learned Java at some point of time in their second year or even in their schools as well if they have taken computers or IP. Yes. So a runtime is something that creates an environment for a language to run on operating system. For example, Java runtime environment, JRE, we call it, enables Java to be run on platforms. What does a runtime actually do? It actually provides a proper, well-defined environment with related libraries and APIs for a language to rely on and to get executed in a better way. Okay. So if we talk about a plain commercial definition for Node.js, then Node.js is what it uses non-blocking event-driven I/O to remain lightweight and efficient in the face of data-intensive real-time applications that run across distributed devices. But okay, I know it went like that. So what we are talking actually is, let's see. In simple words, it's a runtime environment, nothing but a runtime environment. It creates an environment for JavaScript to run on operating systems, to run on platforms basically. It has non-blocking file I/O and network I/O. We'll talk about non-blocking later, but let's discuss about file I/O and network I/O. What file I/O is? It enables a language to access the underlying file system, such as to access a file, to read a file, to write into a file. And network I/O is something that enables a language to talk to web or local network, whatever it is. It has to be a network. Then we talked about event driven in the last definition. So Node.js is event driven. So we'll talk about that again later. Now, one of the efficient use cases of Node.js is you would employ Node.js to write server programs that are more intensive in file I/O than in CPU. So for just a clarification, JavaScript has only single thread, so it is not as good as other languages in terms of computations, but it is very good in terms of file accessing, and coupled with Node.js non-blocking architecture, it is creating miracles. So let's talk about what non-blocking actually is. So on the right side, you are looking at a Node.js architecture server, and on the left side, you are looking at a traditional server. When I say traditional, so a traditional server is something that I would say to a Java server or or a C# server or whatever, ASP server. So what happens? So when you create a request, the server responds a specific thread for that request to be completed. Obviously, we all have definite amount of memory, RAM, to be run, and a server is nothing but a computer. A server runs on a computer. A server is basically a program, right? So, for example, if you have X amount of RAM and you would request X into 2 amount of requests, your server will overwhelm, and hence no new threads will be able to spawn off to serve your request, and hence the wait time increases. And at some point of time, when threshold value is reached, the server gets throttled. So that's how traditional server works. But having said that, Node.js is a non-blocking event-driven system which is employing JavaScript to create server is something a very different concept. What it do is it uses a single thread. So for example, if you would ask Node.js server to serve you a request, for example, to get me an addition of 2 numbers from server to here, so it will go, it will give that server the 2 numbers to add. So for example, the addition method is time taking. Then the request would not halt there and the server sits idle, so that you would be able to request another thing to the server, and by the time the request is being catered for addition, the server hits off an event that the request is completed from my end, and now it is ready to be sent. So that's how event driven server works. So in this fashion, we are not blocking any request, we are not occupying any definite memory in RAM for request to be completed as we used to have in traditional servers. So that's the basic idea of non-blocking event-driven servers, which Node.js came up with. So Node.js is not just server utility. As I said, it is a runtime environment. So you can actually install that in your machine and create programs with it. So let's see. So let's get our hands dirty in it, and let's look at how a Node application actually looks. Let me just quickly open one of the codes that I have came up with for you guys. And just to mention that I am using Visual Studio Code for programming. It is quite a good editor, created by Microsoft, and it's free. So you must give it a try. Let me just quickly share the screen with you all. Okay, I guess I'll just wait for a couple of seconds for this to know that the screen is shared. So let's just get started with one of the very small Node programs. So I'm using Mac operating system. If you guys are using Windows, you can start with your Windows command line. So for that, you have to install Node.js first. So let me quickly tell you how you can install the. Okay, there is one question from Ashwarya Goyal. If possible, can you please explain non-blocking concept again? Yeah, sure, Ashwarya. So what I was talking about the non-blocking is, for example, you go to market and you are being asked from your mother to buy something, some X thing. So you go to market to buy that X thing. If that shopkeeper, if that shop has a long queue of customers to be catered, then you would have to wait, right? So that's a blocking procedure. So you went to market, you are standing in a queue for your turn to be there, and then only then you will be able to get the X thing and get back to your home. This is a blocking process and the concept. What if you would be having this lecture at the same time your mother would be asking? For example, if we developers are working from home, we have a lot of distractions. So yes, so students must be having the same. So your mother is asking you to buy something from that shop, and you would rather want to be studying or attending this lecture. So what if you could employ somebody else in place of you, or maybe you can have some kind of system where you would be able to place an order to the shopkeeper, and whenever your turn is there, the shopkeeper would give you a heads up on a chat that okay, now you can come and get your thing. So you would be saving a lot of time. So that's an event that shopkeeper has created, a event of fulfillness, that now since the shop is vacant, now you can come up and take your things and you can go back. So this is non-blocking. So by listening to it, you might be thinking that it could have been done very easily via a secondary thread, by multi-threading. But that specific thread would have occupied quite good amount of memory for that duration until the process is not completed. Whereas in event-driven architecture, event flows across the producer and consumer. So when you are asked to do something, you ask someone else to do. So you are creating an event, and that person is again creating an event to let you know that this thing has happened, and that's how a non-blocking concept goes. I guess that that answers your question. If not, then please write in chat. I'll try to come up with something else to show you. Okay, so I guess that answered. So let me share my screen to let you know, guys know that how you can download Node.js. So basically, downloading and installing Node.js is very simple. You just have to go to Node.js website and you have to download this latest stable distribution. Try not to use the current latest features because they must be unstable. Use the recommended for most users. Once you are done downloading this, I'm not asking you to download it right away and be with me. So once you are done downloading it, you will have to set the path just like you set the path for Java. I guess this downloader will set the path for you already. So to check if your path is already set, you please open your terminal and type in node anywhere, and you should see a node context open in your command line. So let me share my terminal now. I'll share the desktop even better. Okay, so this is my command line. So to verify that the node is being installed properly, just type in node and hit an enter. So you see the node context has opened. So you can actually code, you can actually test your little code snippets like one line in the terminal itself. So for example, if I want to write hello world, so I could go and write console.log hello world, and see, you you are given a hello world print statement right into the terminal. But that does not specify that node is just like that. That I have shown this to let you guys know that node is a platform independent entity that is open source and is a runtime that can actually let you work on the platforms just like Java. So let's just get exit from this command line and start the code. So to start with a Node.js application, what you would want to do is, there is one more thing that you guys might want to know is NPM, that is Node Package Manager. I'll just quickly show you what does that mean. NPM. So as I told you, Node is open source runtime environment. So a lot of people are developing a lot of quick to use libraries and applications using Node.js or Node runtime, and are uploading it on open source portal for other developers to use. And to use Node efficiently from your command line and to use the Node modules, basically. The modules are the libraries that you can use. They are ready to use modules basically. So you can install them right in your application and you can reuse the functionality that they have already built. So NPM is a tool, a command line tool it is, that is enabling Node to perform better. So let's start a quick Node application. So I have this folder called webinar with new JavaScript and old JavaScript. Let's create something called a demo folder. And this is a terminal again. This is, I am using this Visual Studio Code. You can get this for free. It is a free editor, just like Notepad++, but it is far more better. So it has its own integrated terminal as well. So let's just get into the demo directory. Let's see where we are now. Can anybody confirm me that the screen is properly visible? Okay. There are some. Not able to see the screen. Deepshika ma'am, can you please let me know if you are able to see the screen?
No, I'm not able to see.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay. Sorry guys, must have missed to share the screen afterwards. So yes, so what I was talking about is NPM, right? So NPM is, as I told, NPM is basically a tool that is used as command line for Node applications. It actually enables Node application to request for other modules that the other developers have created and to manage the Node application in a better shape. So let's see. So I have created this demo folder. So let's get into that demo folder first. Once we are into that folder, let's just quickly initialize our project. So for example, when you initialize a Java project, you would simply go and create a .java file, compile it and run it. That's it. So same, we can do that. So let's see how we can do it. Sorry, my screen is, sorry. Okay. So let's create a file into the demo. For example, index.js. I'll just write console.log hello world in that and save it. So we are in that demo folder in the terminal. I would just write node space index.js. What it will do is Node.js, as I told, basically is built on the top of V8. So it gives all the runtime execution libraries to Node as well, which it has. And Node itself gives very good runtime execution environment. So if we try to run our JavaScript file with Node, what it will be doing is it will be compiling it using JIT, and then it will be interpreting it and will be executing it. So let's just hit this statement. So we are seeing hello world. Okay. So enough of the hello world, I guess. Let's just create a bit more complex application. So to actually initialize the Node application, what you need to do is to use npm. So there is one command called npm init. If you would do that, it will initialize a Node project into the current directory where you are hitting this command. So it will walk you through with a set of instructions to make your project manifest file. A project manifest file is nothing but a file with description about the project, like what kind of project it is, the version of the project, what are the commands related to the project, and who is the author and extent. So it is asking me for the package name. For example, I will write demo. Okay, sorry, demo version. I would say 1.0.0. My first description is my first J node program. Entry point will be index.js. Test command I will let's skip it for now. Git repository, let's skip it for now as well. Keywords and author, you can mention your own name. License you can skip. So it is asking me for the contents. Okay. So with that, you will be able to see a file named package.json created right into your project directory. It will be telling you quite a few description about your project. For example, name which we have typed, the version, the main file to look upon for the code initiation, the basically the main entry file, and the license and the author and so on. So you see this block scripts. So I'll talk about it in a minute. So let's first see what this package.json actually do. This package.json is actually a registry file for any Node.js application. When I say registry, then it is a set of descriptions that tells the runtime environment that this project contains this all things. So for example, if I want to create something called as a server, so let's just create one. So I'll quickly do uh, an import. So this is something that an import command looks like in Node. So I have required a module called HTTP that comes with Node environment only. So you don't have to install it explicitly. Once you have this HTTP module with you, you can actually create a server. You have to pass a request listener. Let's just mention that on which URL this HTTP server will be served. So let's do a host URL specification. So I would say it will be working on 127.0.0.1. This is my local host. Okay. We'll quickly assign a port. Let's use 3000. Right. So basically a web server is something that allows you to request these some kind of process to be done at server end and the response to be sent back to you. So I'm just trying to let you know how the syntax looks in Node.js, how you can specify the import commands and how you can use the underlying APIs by just creating a very simple program of a server that I would hit on web page and that would give me a result, maybe a hello world or anything else. So I would just employ the request listener. What I have created just now. So this HTTP server is taking in a request listener. A request listener is a function that takes in a request parameter and a response parameter. So this is something that gets executed when a request comes in. So for example, I would say request any chat or something. You can go ahead. Just give me a minute. There's some network fluctuation is going on. Let me change my network. Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. We should share my desktop screen. Okay. So I was talking about creating a server. Yeah. So till now we have mentioned the host URL that the server will be employed on, the port that we'll be using, and using the HTTP module, we are using a create server method and putting in the request listener in it so that the listener can be function. So let's see how we can send a response here by response dot status code. Let's put a status code for the response, and then we'll be uh, putting in some kind of headers. I will be telling you a lot of all these things in brief once we are done. So I have created this server, and let's specify the port and the host here so that the server knows based on which port and the host it has to be started listening. I'll just do this. And we will start the server to listen on the port, the host URL, and the listener actually. Once it starts to okay. So we have this code right here. What it does is, first of all, we have required a HTTP module. So HTTP is a core API from Node. It's a module to use the HTTP functionality in the Node project. Then we have specified two variables called host URL and port to specify on which URL and port our server will be employed. We've created a server using a request listener. A request listener is nothing but a function that works when any request comes in. Once we have the server in place, we start listening that server on this port and host URL. And once this server is started, then this code should work. So let's see how we can start this server. So basically, we just have to run this code once. So I will be writing. Let me write it in terminals so just to clear any confusion. So let's go into the directory. So we are in webinar, CD demo, ls. Okay. We have the index.js and package.json, right? So let's execute the index.js. So you can see the server has been started and the process is not completed as it is still up and running. So let's hit one request on the desired port we have. So see, this is how a server responds. So we have sent this response from that server here. So what we can do is, let's do this response serving, and we'll restart the server. So when I again hit the URL, you will be able to see a console as well. Just quickly do this. See, there are 2 times when the server is being requested. If I request it again, and again, it will be served from there. This is how you can basically create a node application. Obviously, there is one more thing that I would want to specify here. We are running out of time, I guess, 2 minutes only. So I'll just quickly display that in the package.json, this script block is having the bash scripts, that is the commands to execute. So if I don't want to execute each and every file separately, what I can do is I can make a start command and let it know that what I want to execute. So for example, node index.js. So if whenever I will now write npm start, it will automatically start the server. So guys, I guess that's the basic understanding that I would wanted to give you all about Node.js, how we can actually create server from it. So the very next step that I would want to specify is there are quite a handful of frameworks and technologies that are inspired and are using Node environment in action. More than 70% of web development is being done on the basis of Node in today's era of web development. You must have heard of AngularJS, React.js, Vue.js, and Electron.js. All of these stacks are inspired from Node environment and are using Node somewhere for sure. I have been specifically working on React Native stack. I am not saying I haven't put the photo of React Native in center just to show that React Native is a kind of higher technology. It's not like that. Even React Native is one of the youngest of all. So React Native is a technology that lets you to create native mobile applications that can run both on iOS and Android using Node environment, JavaScript, and native technologies like Android and iOS as well. So you will be working with a combination of technologies where if you would want to use hardware parts, you would be writing Android code, iOS code. You are writing that simple e-commerce application, you would be writing JavaScript using Node environment. So, and there are a lot of handful of Node environment based technologies existing, like Ember.js, Meteor, Backbone.js, Polymer.js. So there is a lot to learn from JavaScript and this environment. So the next step that I would want to recommend are on this screen. Get the hold on to the more core concepts on JavaScript, and probably in the very next talk, if there will be any, then I will be talking on the React Native. I guess for any questions, you can mail me or chat with me on LinkedIn. I will try to come up with the time to chat with you, and or you can share with Dipshika ma'am. I will try my best to answer them all. Or if we can extend this chat for next 5 minutes or as well, then I will be able to tell. But yeah, let's stick to the mail now. So I guess thank you very much everybody for patiently listening, and I hope that it was fruitful for you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Suraj, for getting time for us out of your busy schedule. Any questions?
अरे ये मेरा काम का है.
I think you all have noted down email address, so you can ask directly to Suraj. Thank you all for joining this session. So we are ending this session here. Thank you so much.